Hi, Natalia.
Hmm.
As someone who has always been conscious and critical of her body, what are the continuous tools that you use to get those creeping thoughts in check? And what has elevated you out of that type of thinking?
Well, it's been a really long road, I have to say. I mean, I think it was bred into me from birth, appearance, and the outside world. Um, so it's really, it was like yeah, it was programmed deeply into me. I think just about every breath I took from the earliest I can remember until I became free of it. Um, was saturated in that. So it was an ugly place to be. It was. It made me want to take my own life many times. Um, so how did I come out of it? I would say the first thing is that you have to be tired enough of that way of thinking to just not want to be that tired anymore, because it's incredibly draining. Whether it's, I mean, in my case, it's, made me so incredibly focused on food and my body. It's like it's a vampire. It will suck every last ounce of everything you've got out of you. And I stopped wanting to be vampired. It was like I looked at myself and I thought, I'm worth more than this. My life is worth more than this. But it didn't really fully snap into place until I realized that there were all these other agendas out there vying for my attention, for my insecurity, for my sense of beauty, for like everything, to create my values. Like, not it may sound a little creepy too to talk about it this way, but it was as though there was there were all these other things that wanted a piece of me and wanted to ultimately, by taking these pieces of me, own the way I think. And I decided I wanted to own what I think, and I want to own what I believe to be true and what my values would be. And that's really when I took the lead, because I think ultimately it came to the point where there I have life. You have life. Everyone out there listening, you're in a body, you're alive, you have a consciousness. And that goes back to the sovereignty. So if you have all those things in your possession and you can manage them, they're in your control, like your fingers are in your control, then you're an empowered human being. You have everything you need. If you're giving that away, then you have nothing. Then you're completely at the mercy of what all these other agendas and agencies have taught you to think about yourself. And it makes you tired, and it makes you impotent. And so I realized that I'd rather be ugly, heavy, and empowered than beautiful, perfect in every external way, and impotent. So I think that was like the turning point for me. And I thought then in that same moment, really within the, like, probably a fraction of a moment, a second, I was I fell in love with being alive. I had that epiphany of I'm I'm everything, but I don't need to be this or that. To I get to feel myself. I get to take a breath and be alive and have creative thoughts and make beauty around me and the relationships I have, and and so that's really what finally took over. It was, again, it's the sovereignty. When it comes in with a huge amount of power in ways that you might not even see in the beginning. And then you really own it. And then you never ever want to be disempowered again. It's like you come to realize self-realization. You realize self-realization isn't about realizing how great you, the individuated self, is. It's it's coming to realize how amazing life is, and this thing that we're a part of. It's integral to the fabric of our cells and our mind, our creativity, our relationships. Like, we're at the party, and then we're told by some other agency that there, first of all, is no party, and the real party's over here, but that's hell, basically. So don't go to that party. The party is really here, and so I think that's really, and so that's sort of on a more maybe esoteric metaphysical level what got me out of it. But it's the step. It was the steps from I'm going to do things the world's way to I'm going to do things the way my inner compass is directing me, which led me away from mainstream living, mainstream eating, mainstream viewing, mainstream everything, relationships, all these things. It made you have to reconsider. It all started for me with with tissue cleansing, because that was my doorway. Everyone has their own doorway, but that for me was the doorway. And when that started to happen, what occurred to me was, well, if this is the way things really are, but this is what I was told, but that was wrong what I was told, well, how many other things were wrong too? Mm-hmm. And then I could start to systematically dismantle every single belief system, every single category of, and until I finally came to the final conclusion of, okay, well, this is empowerment, that's disempowerment, that makes you feel terrible about yourself, this makes you feel awesome. And besides which, do you want people in your life? One of the biggest fears that comes up, I think, when people think about coming into their sovereignty and accepting themselves and loving themselves is, well, if I just love myself for who I am, then maybe I'm not going to look after myself, because I only look after myself because I need to put out this image to the world. But then suddenly everything you do for yourself is an act of love. Mm-hmm. And you don't let yourself go because you love yourself. You're going to feed yourself really well. You're going to go in the sunshine. You're going to have a lovely tan, not because you need to be tanned, but because you love the sunshine. You love how your life experience is when you're in the sunshine. You're going to, everything you do is going to be an act of authentic connection with life. And then, but people have so many fears about being rejected from the tribe, because that's so primal. But in effect, you may not have the same tribe. You might have a different tribe. You might find your true family, your true relationships, the people that you really can send and receive, conduct beautifully with. And those people are going to want to see you. They're not going to want to see, they're not going to measure you by the width of your thighs, or your bust, or your face falling, or they're just going to see your beauty, and you're going to know they're going to see your beauty because you're going to see theirs. You're not going to be measuring. The second you stop measuring people that way, you'll attract the people who don't measure that way, period. And then we could become, through the ripple effect in this, a species of people who just don't see each other that way. We see right to the heart, and that's where we have the most fun.
Mm-hmm. So do you find that in the state of bliss that you are now, you don't ever get those thoughts creeping up on you again?
It only happens to me when I'm trying to shove myself into that that person who functions in the world according to the world's terms. For example, if there's some kind of function that comes up, it's not something I would go to on my own volition, but for some reason things conspire that I need to be at this place, and this is kind of the way you dress on one of these things, or there may be oh my God, well, this concern of appearing right for the occasion, and I'll catch myself in those circumstances. But it'll be like, I always call it a storm in a teacup. It'll be like, I'll throw a few things around the closet for a minute and be like, what am I doing? Stupid. I don't even need to go to this thing. It doesn't have a hook in. It just has, it's more just like a little glimmer of a past thing, and like, oh, this is what the world does. And then you can look at it again and be like, oh, I'm so glad I don't do what the world does, because I'd be doing this all day, every day, Right. I'd really be trapped. But so I would say it comes up then. In terms of the body, the beauty of it for me is that I look at it as the wellness should come through if I'm doing things right. If it's not, then I must be doing things wrong. And I no longer look, all the associations have a different starting point for me now. So if I start to feel or look heavy, I'll know that I'm overdoing something. If I'm overdoing something, I must be out of balance. Why am I out of balance? I must not really be in my sovereignty. So I can always lead it back to that, as opposed to, being self-hating,
Mm-hmm.
because so it's a different perspective, and it's a place I think where we always need to be continuously vigilant. But if you're in your center, and I always, every single day, you, I make the time to touch base with myself, and if you're not, if you do that over time, you no longer need to set the time aside to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes what you do. It's like a muscle memory thing. You kind of, who you know that if you take one breath out of place, you feel it. Whereas before, every breath was out of place, and you had to take the time to take a good breath and know what a good breath felt like. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you have to. I think it's a commitment. It's consistency. It's not being afraid to see the ugly truth of the lies and being ready to dismantle everything. Knowing that people are going to think you're crazy, and you just kind of being okay with that. Because there can be no sovereignty if you're worried what everyone else thinks about you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the first thing that is ingrained in you in this culture, because everybody has to be in their place, on their schedule. You bring a baby into this world, the first thing they want you to do is they want you to put that baby on a schedule, make it predictable. We need to know where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing, how you're going to be thinking, how you're going to be purchasing, what you're going to be watching, what your relationship is going to be. Like, if you're not, and also, if we're so engrossed in all that stuff, then we're not free enough to think about the fact that it might be wrong. So the busier it keeps us, the more self-absorbed it keeps us, the less inclined we are to be free sovereign humans, which doesn't serve the larger system very well at all, does it?
Right. I think it's really important to distinguish the difference between wanting to please the world and then that feeling that you have on the inside where you feel like you're not good enough for yourself, and realize that actually didn't come from you. It came from the outside. Mm-hmm. And you gotta touch base with yourself and realize that you gotta push that part out. It's not your truth. Mm-hmm. I think that's where it gets really difficult and really, really deep and intense for people to conduct that kind of healing.
Yeah. No, I couldn't have said it better. I think that's in, and to accept that that's in you, for everyone to accept that there's that element in them, so that they can get to the business of getting rid of it. One of the things I think is really helpful too, most people who are self-critical tend to measure themselves by certain external things. Usually it's the number on a scale. That's the most typical thing that we've all been programmed to measure ourselves by. And I would challenge you all to find things that have nothing to do with the body to measure yourselves by. So it's maybe how you respond to others. Maybe it's your level of generosity. If you have a scale, like, where are you on your scale of generosity today? Or your ability to be tolerant, or not just be tolerant, but to be embracive, to see the whole. Like, those are the things we need to start measuring ourselves by. And then, because there's some element, there's something in us that makes us want to measure ourselves. So until we get to the point where we don't need to measure ourselves anymore, we just accept ourselves completely, just because we exist, and get into that Buddhic state, find some really beautiful things that you can be measuring your progress by.
And also, have it not be measurement in comparison to somebody else.
So important. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It has to be, because that's self-righteous. It has to be, you're looking at yourself. Do you see a genuine upgrade in the way you interface with the world, and not to do with comparing it to anybody else? As Anna said, it has to be just exclusively you in your place, forgetting how everyone else behaves. Doesn't matter if you are nicer than the next person at all. It matters that you are authentically coming from a place of harmony and bringing harmony to the world whatever's happening around you. More harmony, more understanding, more love and compassion. Those are all the harmonious qualities. Well, there are many more, but and then you will just become that. You'll become the beauty that you were seeking in other ways that could never manifest beauty because they had nothing to do with harmony.
Thank you so much for sharing your personal insight. I think people are really going to be able to benefit from it. I know I have.
Okay, good. It was a long road. Well worth it.